Hey everyone, it's Logan here with another model review, and this time it is of a different brand. This is a Phoenix Models 1 front at the scale Atlas Air Boeing 747-400. A little bit of background information about this aircraft. This aircraft here is particularly used in charter flights. It has actually flown the military around a couple of times, and when I saw it, it was flying a football team out to MSP. And this is actually an exact model of the very first Boeing 747 I've ever seen in an airport ever. And it's the exact same registration and everything, so it's pretty special. Let's get right into it. So then in review, we can start off with the front, and this model is really detailed. It's actually just about as detailed as a Gemini Jets model. And we start off with the front here. We have the very detailed cockpit windows here. And the windshield wipers, I personally think, are the most precise and the most detailed I've ever seen. Honestly, better than Gemini Jets. Now, obviously, Gemini Jets is probably the best diecast brand there is, but these windshield wipers are pretty darn good, as you can see. And for comparison here, just for size, this is my index finger. These things are tiny, very tiny. You also have some more detail there. As we start moving around, you have some of the frontmost windows, as well as some pitot tubes, and the nose gear right there. More on that later. One of the main exit doors, the Atlas Air logo. Now this is their white and gold livery, and as you can see, it's just white and gold. However, it is actually not quite gold. It is actually more of a champagne color, and I personally like it a lot. When I saw this one, I don't know if it was the lighting or just the actual color of the aircraft. It was more of a bronze tone. It was still very light and did have the champagne to it, but it looked a lot more like it did on the box, a lot darker. But that is just me. Anyways, and as we keep on going here, better shot of the doors here. These doors have some very good detail. As we keep moving back here, we have more windows, as well as the upper deck windows here. More doors, implied beacon lights, and another detail they obviously nailed, kind of important. On one side of the upper deck, there are 8 windows in the back there. On the other side, there are 10, if I counted correct. Another very minor detail they added to this one. As we keep going back here, you have the inboard landing lights here, the engines, which are pretty basic, but looking at the actual aircraft and the videos that I took, the engines actually don't have a whole lot of detail to them. It's really just white, and you might see a panel line here and there, but other than that, it's really just the engines themselves. Not a whole lot of detail to them. And the fan blades are a part of the actual engine itself. They're not a separate thing. The fan blades on these are okay. It's more so just the lines to kind of imply them there. And that's really all you have for the engines there, but you do have all 4 of them, obviously. Yep. And as we go to the wing, it is a very good wing. It is pretty crisp, clean detail. As with some die-cast models, the leading edge of the wings will sometimes be flattened out because of the mold. Both these, they remain rounded, so that's a plus. And you also have the fuel tank outlines right there as well. Another thing they have, which I personally find pretty crazy, they actually have no step marked in. Now it's upside down in this shot, but they do have no step printed in. Pretty crazy. Yep. As we start moving along the wing here, you'll see the middle section of it, which is a kind of chrome, silver, metallic-ish color, which looks pretty good on this one. And as we move out, we have the red light on the outside, as well as the winglet with the Atlas Air logo. And those are the wings. It's just the same on the other side. And there are no antennas on this model, as it is a 2010 release. Pretty old. This model actually came broken out of the box. It was poorly packaged and it came from the UK. I'm surprised it wasn't more broken than it was. The left wing was actually completely loose, so I had to glue that back in, unfortunately, but really it's not even noticeable. Not too big of a deal, considering it was an old model anyways. And as we continue to move back here, more windows, lots of those. One thing I noticed too, there appears to be a few little scratches right there on some of the windows over the wings. Not too big of a deal, and I do have some paints, so if I wanted to at some point I could fix that, but right now I'm probably just going to leave it. As we continue to move back across the aircraft fuselage here, you have the registration number. It's November 263 Sierra Golf, and the Boeing 747-400 label right there in the rearmost door. And one odd thing I noticed about this, you can kind of see the little like paint splatters right there. Not entirely sure how that would have happened, but it did, and it is what it is. And as we move back here, you have the rudder with that really neat looking champagne color. And you have the horizontal stabilizer here with more fuel tank outlines. And personally, I think it looks pretty spot on. The 747 has a pretty, supposed to like a thick horizontal stabilizer, but it does look great. Everything's accurate. And now that we're at the back here, they actually have the APU modeled in here. It is simply a hole in the back of the die-cast fuselage with a little bit of black paint on it. And you also have the aileron, flap, and spoiler detail as well. And you also have the elevator detail here as well. Same with the rudder. That's all in there, and it's pretty crisp and clean. The marks aren't all that deep at all, but they are definitely really crisp, which is good. Here's a rear view of the aircraft. And everything is the same on the other side. All the same. You can do a little pan real quick all the way through. Alright, that's the other side. And now I will very gently attempt to flip it over as to not scratch anything. Now we can move on to the landing gear, which is personally the best I've ever seen on a model of this scale. Now, it is a 747, so it does have the 4 bogies in the back and the single one in the front. There's the Phoenix logo right there as well, a hole for a stand, and the hole for the stand right there is actually compatible with Gemini jet stands as well, so that's a plus if you wanted to have it on that. Now with the landing gear, like I said, it's the most detailed I've ever seen, and they actually roll. Like, these gears roll freely. Pretty crazy. And you can probably see the little circles in the middle. Those are actually little itty bitty teeny tiny metal pins that they use to hold those in. And all of these do roll. Every single one. You roll, you roll, you too. And this side right here is a little stiff, but after working for it, it kind of goes. And the nose gear goes as well. They don't turn though, they kind of wobble around, but they do not turn. That's a bit much for a 1 scale model. An interesting thing I noticed about the landing gear on this model too. Now the outboard landing gears right here on the wing are stiff, but the ones in the middle are like on some sort of like squishy pad sort of thing. And they move around, which is interesting. Now my logic on that was perhaps just for setting it down as to not like damage it. They have it so it can kind of like move around. Other than that, I honestly don't have much of an explanation for that, but they do have it so these kind of like wobble around for some reason. Interesting detail, not sure the exact reason, but it is what it is. And then the nose gear you also have 263, of course it's upside down in this shot, but it is there. Yep, and then the tires are rubber as well, and they all do roll. There's no tilting action, however, these are static, except for these kind of tilt, but they also move back and forth. That's okay though. And on the side of the wings, you have the same silver line across the entire wing, and the engines as well. The engines are pretty well detailed. I personally think they're really good. You can kind of see a bit of a seam line right there, but it's hardly even noticeable at all, and I honestly only noticed it when I had it on the camera up close like this. So yeah, and there are the engines. And you can kind of see a little bit of a line right there. Now, with die-cast planes, typically the amount of paint they put on is actually pretty thick. So this is actually, that line you see right there, is actually a little bit of a rise in the metal, like a bit of a line kind of sticking up, and the paint just fills it up, and it sticks out just barely, and it acts as like a panel line. Interesting detail, definitely noted. And there is no APU detail on the other side of the aircraft, it's just a little hole in the back that's painted black. And yeah, that's pretty much all of it. Set her on back down here and get her centered. So yeah, there you have it. Phoenix models, Atlas Air Boeing 747-400, 1/4 scale, registration November 263 Sierra Golf. Alright, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more.